2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last Best Hope for Conversation and the last episode recording in 2023. You'll get this shiny new episode in 2024, but we are recording on New Year's Eve. Joining me, as always, is Lou.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year.
And Karen.
Hello. Fireworks here.
Yes, and I am Jesse. So we are just a reset. In case this is your first episode, welcome. We are rewatching Babylon 5, one episode at a time. Lou and Karen have never seen Babylon 5, so they are on this journey new, and I've seen Babylon 5 multiple times and am trying to hold their hand the same way they did for me on Farscape. So, Epiphanies originally aired February 10th, 1997. That is my son's birthday. Not the 97 part, but the February 10th. And let's do around the horn real quick thoughts. Karen.
Good, but very weird.
Okay.
That's my basic thought.
Good weird or bad weird?
Good
Weird.
All
Yeah,
right.
and weird.
All right. And Lou, be careful what you wish for. Baldy got more screen time.
Yes.
But are we happy with what happened to him?
Mostly, except for one particular scene, which we'll get to. But this episode was, as expected, a step down from the previous couple because it's the after effects of the conflicts that have now been resolved and whatnot. So now it has to take a breather, which it did in this episode, which I appreciated. And new storylines are being spun up right now, including Garibaldi's. Yeah, it was an okay episode.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. When I was watching this, and I watched it a couple of times, that yeah, this is, if you compare it to the previous few episodes, wow, this is a real letdown. But if you think it in the terms of a chapter in a long novel, you got to reset and do things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to breaking it down.
And set other things up, which
yes,
I think absolutely. It did pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. So before we dive into the episode, Karen said that she's got a few notes and trivia she wants to share. So Karen, take it away.
Just a little bit. Victor Ludin, who played the Psychor official that meets with Bester, he was the first credited Klingon in the original Star Trek. And he was considered for the role of Spock, which I thought was cool.
Wow.
And then Lauren Sanchez, who plays the news anchor, she's been a news anchor in real life, and she's played a lot of news anchors. But her notable current newsworthiness, she broke up Jeff Bezos' marriage and his current fiance. They had an affair when they were both married, and they both filed for divorce from their spouses, and now they're together. So her infamy. Also, the people that were connected to Trump, they tried to blackmail her and Bezos to saying that they had evidence that they were having an affair. And instead of allowing that to happen, Bezos just came out with the information and thwarted their efforts. So I just thought it was interesting that these two people had that kind of trivia.
I did not know that about her.
And the Star Trek episode is Errand of Mercy, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, with John Colicos as well.
Good. Yeah, it looks like 2017 was the last IMDb news. She's played newscaster
a lot. Yeah.
So
yeah, she's a little more busy now.
Yeah, absolutely. Very nice.
Going to the Turks and Caicos with Jeff Bezos, apparently.
Yes. Okay. Very
whatever.
Nice. Yeah. So let's just go right to open our presents. We'll go straight to, we'll skip appetizers. I don't know if this is the dessert, but I think it's certainly the meat is Garibaldi. Garibaldi gets a couple of mysterious messages, and he goes in and drops the mic saying, I'm done. I've gone enough of this crap. I'm tired of trying to die, fighting other people's battles. It's time for me to fight my own battles. and we're lucky we got out of alive. I will see you. Goodbye. And what I wanted to hear is, and you know what? None of you people gave a crap about me anyway, only Jakar. So I'm out
You're
of here.
stealing my thunder, Jesse.
All right. So Lou, go for it before I steal any more.
No, I'm glad that this sleeper agent storyline is finally starting to spin up. But I just thought the speech he gave as to why he was leaving was total bullshit. That's not Garibaldi, and I'm surprised that none of the other characters called him on it either. I just don't buy that he's running from a fight. That's just not the Garibaldi that we've seen in the previous season. So I just like that. Like you, I would have rather said I didn't get to do anything in the previous battle, so and why should I care? Because you guys obviously don't care about me, kind of thing. But I guess that was make him sound like a whiny little bitch or whatever. But at least that would have been plausible given the context of his arc so far in the season. And there's no follow-up scene. Nobody tries to stop him. Like it's nobody goes to talk to him. It's okay. So don't let the door hit you on the way out, kind of thing.
Do you mind if I interject here,
No, please.
just for a second? I think that's a cover. I think he knows there's something going on in his head, and he's decided to step back from an official position on Babylon 5, just in case. Anyway, that's just my
That's
thought.
an interesting theory, but
That's a very interesting theory.
Still doesn't explain the explanation he gave. That doesn't, but that would be actually cool if that's true.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Because there's an inference from Bester in this episode that he's got something else up his sleeve for Babylon 5, and we have to assume at this juncture that it is Garibaldi. But if Garibaldi's taken himself off the board from having access to all the security information and that would lessen his usefulness to, if it's best, it is Psychor. So if it's Bester specifically, as to how that's going to play out. And I was under the impression the way he was packing up the stuff that he was going to leave the station as well. But maybe he's going to have his own walkabout and we're going to get some more down below the scenes.
One thing I thought was interesting is at least they had a Zach and him discussion, which I thought was a good scene. I would have liked to seen, someone gone and said,
or Franklin.
Are you sure? Yeah. Franklin, I think, would have been the one who made the most sense. Come back and said, in fact, when I was rewatching the episode, when Jakar visited him, which, by the way, was a great scene in my opinion, but I thought it was going to be someone else. I thought it was going to be someone from the command staff, probably Franklin, saying, are you sure you want to do this? You know?
Yeah. And there's even a mirror that Franklin has addiction issues, so they have that bond. And he also went on a walkabout and left his post for a while. So it would have been him. Mm-hmm. I think he would have been the one to go and talk to him. Yeah. But
any other thoughts, Lou?
On the Garibaldi stuff, no. Other than that, I'm just looking forward to seeing where it's all going.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have a question that's always in my mind about how do you live? What is the money situation, right? I know that they talked about, Sheridan said they needed port fees even more than normal. The post office scene where they're not getting any funding from Earth, you're wondering, how do people still make money? And I guess the people who aren't on Earth Force that are on there still are whatever they're still getting paid from whatever company they work for, because obviously they're still doing a job, right? We just see the command staff. There's this whole infrastructure of people that live and work there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of my thoughts on that was that he's moving out of that room because they're staff quarters. And so maybe he has to move out of there and take a regular place. It just occurred to me when you said that maybe that's why. I don't know. He may be moving off the station. Maybe to go to Mars. Who knows?
That's what was my thought. I thought, is he going to Mars?
And I did the scene where he and Zach talk. He would have also been a logical person to talk to him about whether he should leave or not, because they seem to be close now. I like how much Zach was in this one. And I also feel like they're really setting up this Garibaldi storyline, and it gives me great hope, even though it seems to be going in a way where things might lessen for him in the show. I think it's going to increase his role in the show because now he has this interesting sort of away from his duties storyline. We got more of Franklin when he left to go on his walkabout.
Yeah. Sorry, just going to interject
No, that's
here.
fine.
The only drawback I'm seeing is he's going to interact with the main cast even less going forward than he has currently. So from that aspect, I'm not too enamored with what's going on there. But we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I agree. And also the thought of getting paid, like Jesse brought up. I think that leading up to the war effort, maybe the Rangers did some of that. I don't know how the Rangers get paid, but we know that they were part of that organization, so maybe the Rangers took over. And I would assume that once the other alien races were on board with all that, maybe they helped out, not with money, but if they're running the tavern or whatever, the leaders of the world, whatever it was called, the War Council, maybe they got some sort of stipend to eat or a coupon to drink, or I don't know. It's just a thought. I don't know.
What could be is that, yeah, I absolutely believe he's leaving. He has to leave the quarters, right? That's what this is, right? Anything else on Garibaldi? We didn't talk about him and Jakar. I thought that was a really lovely scene where the tomato, the whole idea of depending on your perspective, glass half empty, glass half full. Garibaldi is incredibly guilty that Jakar lost his eye. He was captured. He was tortured by the Centauri, all because he was looking for him. I did love the idea. You were the only one. I'm glad that little dig was in there. That kind of JMS acknowledging maybe, hey, yep, I know we should have maybe done this better. And Jakar is like, no, this is the end. The end was everything. If I had not done this, all this good things wouldn't have happened. And I see more clearly now, even with only one eye. So Karen, give me your thoughts on that scene.
I really appreciated that scene. I knew that he was gonna be grateful for Garibaldi being back. But when he walked in, they were gonna do a fake out because they were okay. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I knew already that he was gonna have a good reaction to Garibaldi being back. But I feel like they were trying to set up a thing where people were guessing whether he'd be mad at Garibaldi or not. I think it's a no-brainer that he wanted Garibaldi back. And of course, he's not in the know about Garibaldi leaving his position. So he's just thinking everything's status quo. I loved their interaction. I like how Garibaldi, he does feel a little responsible for what happened to Jakar, because if he hadn't done that, Jakar wouldn't have lost an eye. But I could see coming from a mile away that Jakar was grateful because, and it's this whole kind of spiritual thing he's got going where everything happens for a reason. And his people were freed because of this. He doesn't care what else happened. He got this good ending out of it. And also that, not that he cares, but that things happen on Centauri Prime to end that war between them. So that whole thing he's very happy about. And he doesn't blame Garibaldi for that. He thanks Garibaldi for that, which I thought was pretty cool. And I love their bond. I really do love their friendship. Since Londo has severed his goodwill on Babylon 5, I feel like he and Garibaldi had that kind of, to a lesser extent. I think Jakar is much closer to him. To see them interact in his quarters, and just so happy to see them back together. And I'm putting air quotes around that, but yeah, very cool.
Yeah, very cool bromance. Lou, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Karen pretty well said it all. I think that Andreas is just killing it as Jakar, and it's great to see somebody from the main cast interacting with Garibaldi on a certain level. Like nothing against Zach, but to me, he's a second tier character, so I don't get the same emotional engagement when him and Garibaldi are interacting. I much rather would have seen Susan or Sheridan or Delynn interacting with Garibaldi on some level, or even Franklin for that matter. But it's good that this bromance between these two characters is going on. I'm curious to see how that's going to evolve going forward as well. And maybe Garibaldi will work for Jakar in some capacity, or Jakar will offer him some sort of job because he knows his talent, Garibaldi's talents and whatnot, and he could use his help with whatever issues Narn's facing going forward. So that's maybe something to look forward to as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have one question that's a small nitpick is, okay, was captured with his coat, and now then he has
He
the
has it
exact
back.
same coat. Yes, that
That's the
looks
same
like
thing
none
I
damage.
said too.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking, is that a style? Is it like saying a fedora hat or a blue jean jacket that it's just very popular in Narn, so you just get another version of that same coat of many colors? Shout out to Dolly Parton.
Or is it just a knit? And of course,
Yeah,
I thought the same thing because I love that coat.
yes.
I really do. You just mentioned the AI summaries a minute ago. We
Yeah.
talked about it. And one of my humorous takes from one of them was that they mentioned Garibaldi and his name was Gary Balti.
Yeah, yeah.
I said I may refer to him as Gary Balti from now on.
Yes. Yeah, and to pull back the curtain a little bit, listeners, because we're on Zoom, Zoom takes notes on our recording, and it's an AI note, and it is eerily wrong and eerily correct. It is one
Yep.
extreme or the other. And one of the things we do to close the loop is I email the summary to Lou and Karen after the podcast. Hey, if you email us and say, hey, send me the notes, I'll do it to you. So there we
Oh,
go.
Makes me
That's-
feel very self-conscious.
yeah.
Okay, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't.
There's some of our personal stuff in there too.
Good point. Good point. All right. War is over. Everyone celebrating.
War is
Yeah.
over.
Okay,
sorry.
The episode opens with everyone celebrating. They're doing flyovers, they're doing fireworks, they're dancing at, I assume, the Amelia Clark place, right? Amelia's, that was the bar. This was an original song done by the guy who does all the music, very 40-ish style, very much the feeling of VE and VJ Day. Victory in Europe, victory in Japan, World War II is over, that whole scene in the Times Square. And John is like, we still got a lot to do, but they end up, at least him and Delynn say, okay, we're going to enjoy our victory while we got it, and we'll worry about tomorrow. And tomorrow happens where our favorite telepath from the Psych Corps, Esther, comes, and Earth is unhappy. The shadows are gone. Clark is like, okay, they're coming for me next. I've got to go on the offensive. And they have this whole plan, and Bester shows up. I want to get to that seriousness, but I also want to give, because this kind of intersects the Londo story, Zach trying to get through okay, you never know who's going to come through. And there's Londo. Oh, the Emperor said only over your dead body. And I said, oh, that's the exact thing that Mr. Allen said, but I only have so much room in my schedule. Then Bester shows up, and I assume my cell is where I left it. And then he goes, the second coming, and they have 3 Elvis impersonators.
Mm-hmm.
Lou, anywhere you want to go with the Bester storyline up to they actually try to execute the plan.
It was all pretty straightforward. There wasn't a lot to hang on to there for me, anyhow. Walter Koenig has really established himself as that character quite well by now. I did the sight gag of the 3 Elvis impersonators. I thought that was funny. And Bester's just operating on several levels. He's playing Babylon 5 and Earth against each other to a certain degree, and he's also got, I believe he's got this whole Garibaldi sub storyline going as well. So it's just interesting to watch him operate, and his interactions with Talia were interesting as well because he's picked up on the fact that she's a lot more powerful now than she was before.
Lita.
Just, sorry. And
Okay.
it's again, this episode is doing a lot of setup. So there's a lot of threads here that hopefully will be pulled on later in subsequent episodes.
Karen?
Yeah, you said favorite psychor, a psychop, Esther. In one way, yes, because I love Walter Koenig, but I also I cannot stand that character. He is like super slimy. He is definitely playing both sides of the fence. He's dancing over the borderline. And I do think part of his plan is to get his way no matter which way this goes. And I feel like he thinks that he underestimated Babylon 5. And so this is why he appeared there, in order to, I don't know, maybe get more into their good graces, and to also see his first love and to do this thing on Zahadum. I think the scenes where they go to Zahadum are also interesting. And then we see that Lita has done something. And this really shows how powerful Lita has become because of the Vorlons. And everybody seems to be cottoning on to that she's very powerful. And I didn't connect that his ace in the hole was Garibaldi. So I'm glad you brought that up. I do think that's his ace in the hole. The whole Garibaldi seeing the Hypnotoad message in his quarters. The Hypnotoad from Futurama. I like seeing Bester because that brings that interesting storyline in, but I also detest Bester. I felt like the last time he was on, he ingratiated himself and he wanted to be on Babylon 5's side, but I knew there was going to be some kind of betrayal coming because that's his MO. And I feel like we're back to the real Bester in this episode, that this is his modus operandi.
One of the things I'm thinking of is the scene in Firefly, deny you're inevitable, but seeing betrayal with the dinosaurs. Yeah, I am so glad, Karen, that you did not connect the ace in the hole, because I didn't either when I first watched this. And as I watched this, I was like, wow, I was just really stupid that I didn't see. They're just throwing it out there plain as day.
I feel really stupid too. And especially since it comes in this episode with Garibaldi and all that.
But I swear I did not make that connection.
Yeah, I'm glad Lou did.
Well, doesn't mean I'm right.
No, but I guess I've spoiled a little bit.
Apparently you are right.
Yeah. And
I thought they hung quite the lantern on it with him saying.
It seems 100% evident now that you say it. It's a no-brainer, but.
And I am absolutely was when there is a reveal in the future, and I go, duh, why didn't I see that? I really was going, wow, I guess I didn't watch the show as close as I could. And so it makes me feel a little bit better that
I'm the same.
Oh, okay.
So that it was not that it's only, it was there if you wanted to see it, but if you, like all good clues, after the fact, you go, oh my God, yeah, I should have seen that immediately. But if you didn't, that's good. So yeah. Go ahead.
What's her name? That's not Talia. What is it?
Lita.
Lita. It does raise an interesting question with her because we had that episode, was it last season, I think, where Psycho was hunting down all the renegade telepaths.
Yep.
So she's fits the definition of a renegade telepath to me, yet he's just going to let her continue doing what she's doing. I guess only because he doesn't want to piss off Sheridan. I assume.
And would they let him take her off?
Yeah. And
So
in fact, if you remember, Sheridan had that line. He says, I could take her and wrap her up. He says, yes, and I could chop your head off and put you on top of the file.
But we
He
don't
mentioned,
always get what we want.
yeah, we don't always get what we want. And he actually
get what we need.
mentions, yeah, and he mentions later when he's talking to her that maybe there is something there. And then he tries to play to her loyalty. Corpse's mother, Corpse's father.
Mhm.
And she's no, which I did think was a little funny.
She said, then I'm an orphan, which I
Yeah,
loved. I thought that was a
yeah.
great line.
And I love the idea that, to me, Bester is so blinded by his love of the Corps and his feeling is that he isn't saying that even sarcastically or ironically.
That's
He's
their
like,
thing.
yeah, this is their thing.
And
So,
also, you brought up the party at the
yeah,
beginning of the episode.
yeah,
I think it's very much in the vein of that World War II coming home. And even so far as the music, which you mentioned, is swing kind
yeah,
of music, which was very popular then. I think there's some
yeah,
hairstyles that go with that. And I really do think they were hammering that it's very much like VE Day or something like that. And also we see Richard Biggs's real life fiance at that time, but she became his wife. That's who he
Oh,
dances with.
I did not know
And this is
that.
the second time she's appeared on the show. So
Nice. Very nice.
Was that
Um,
waiting for Sheridan and Delin to go down and dance?
yeah,
That would have been
mhm,
cool. Or
it
a
would
nice
have been.
touch. Yeah.
yeah. I did, I did, I did that Sheridan figured out what if or why perhaps. So anyway, they go to Zahadun and they're going to try to find technology to free all the telepaths that were used by the Shadow. And John figures out in time, it's a trap. And
Mhm.
he leaves and the planet
It's a
blows up.
trap.
But he figures out later that it had to be Lita who did that, and Lita explains why, if we're talking about in theory, if we're just
Mhm.
saying. And then I think this new John, after coming back from death, is a dick because he rips her a new one. And technically, she isn't in his chain of command, but
Right.
since she is a free agent, I just didn't care for that. I understood why he did it, but I did not care for that scene. There were better ways to handle that. And you wonder how much the experience that happened with Zahadun has changed John. Karen, any thoughts on that where he rips her a new one?
I didn't mind that scene as much as you did. I think he's abrasive, but I also think he has a right to question her about that. They went to all that trouble to go there to get Bester's cooperation, and she thwarted them. And he feels like, thank you for blocking his thoughts, but why did you do this to us?
Yeah.
He has a right to be a little angry, but I also enjoyed the dance of their conversation, that everything was theoretically what happened, that he's making it clear that he's not gonna report her or anything because it's just theoretical. And I also think Bester might have a clue that she did it, but I feel like he doesn't. He is overconfident in his abilities, and maybe he can't think of Lita that way because he thinks of her as a subordinate, as a lesser. So what, she cannot have done this. It's not even a thought in his mind, but I think if he really thought about it, he'd get the fact that she's the one doing it. I think it makes
Okay.
John look much smarter.
I'm gonna have to put on my dunce cap here because I don't understand. How did she destroy Doom? Did she telepathically communicate with whoever was there that they were coming? Is that what it was? Or it was never made clear to me what she did exactly to get the planet destroyed.
Alexander replies that theoretically it could have been additional Vorlon programming or simply revenge on Bester. So it's something she sent that is connected to her Vorlon abilities.
Yeah, so I believe what they were saying is that the Shadows had left booby traps that if the Vorlons were ever going to get to the planet, it would be blown up.
Okay.
And so by her sending a telepath signal, and she has a little bit of Vorlon left with her, that was enough for them standing on a landmine. It tripped the guide wire that therefore allowed them to set the self-destruct system off. That's how I read it.
Okay.
And the
That
fact
make a
that
little-
the fact that they dance around it and say theoretically gives us
Yeah.
that nebulous, I don't know how she did it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so the idea that they had that, that's what I think.
Okay. So the shadows all left though, right? In the previous episode?
Yeah, the
So
shadows are all
who were
gone.
these who were these aliens?
They're minions. And we see that at the very end, and we'll talk
So
about
they're more
Centauri.
like Mordred?
Yeah, except other races that were, I'm trying to think, it was you had Nazi Germany and fascist Italy, and so maybe Nazi Germany is gone, but the fascist Italy is still there, so supporting it. So there are
they're
other
supporters.
races that have been part of that.
People that they recruited.
Yeah.
And maybe they went there after that capital city blew up.
Yeah.
In order to place
Yeah.
some kind of trap for the Vorlon.
All right. Just a little bit of nebulous storytelling. The aliens fleeing, we might get something from them in the future, but
well, and let's go
Excuse
ahead
me.
and kick to Centauri, right? The minister, which by the way, I could not find a name for. And in
He has a
everything I've
name.
seen in IMDb and everything, he's called minister. But the guy that you guys talked about, man, he's just goofy.
His name is Milo Verini.
Okay.
Verini.
Okay, so Verini
Anyway.
is now the regent, and because Londo thinks that there's going to be an assassination attempt, probably because he knows that's what he would do if he was there. And he wakes up in the middle of the night saying, "Oh, it was a bad dream. It was a bad dream." And this is a little bit of spoiler, Keeper is what Londo we saw that was on Londo in the future is on the new regent. The allies of the shadows have gone to Centauri Prime and are using that to take over the planet. Lou, any thoughts on that, jumping ahead? And also, let's talk about Londo and Jakar meeting in the promenade.
Yeah, that scene was another good scene between the two of them. They've come to a fork in the road. They've gotten from each other what they wanted, but obviously there's bad blood between them, and Jakar wants nothing more to do with Londo. And I think Londo would actually be open to continuing some kind of relationship with him, with Jakar, but that's not going to happen. So that was nicely played. And you can see, again, Andreas is just through his body language, you can feel like he's Bruce Banner trying not to turn into the Hulk kind of feeling, right? Like he's seething underneath, but he's controlling himself. So I thought that was really nicely played. And it makes for at least at this juncture in the series, it makes for a logical conclusion to their relationship. Now, circumstances will probably force them back together again. But for now, I really liked how that scene played out. And I thought both of them did a great job with it. Londo saw him, turned away, and then I guess he thought the better of it because Babylon 5 may be big, but it's only so big. Their paths are undoubtedly going to cross again. So he figured he might as well face the music and get the awkwardness out of the way, which is what he did. As to what happened on Centauri Prime, I thought the shot was excellent. I loved it when the eyelid popped out and the eyeball was showing. I thought it was a very creature feature kind of moment. I thought that was pretty cool. As to how they got attached to him is interesting. And I guess we'll find out how that is done exactly. And whether it's through some food or drink or an injection, or I don't know how they did it, but it's a pretty cool prosthetic anyhow. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of character change Verini will have now. Will he be less, I don't know, irritating? less melodic,
Or just
less, yeah. And yeah, and what impact is this going to have on Londo? Because we saw in one future that he's going to have the same creature attached to him as well. But I don't know if that future is still going to happen now because of what Sheridan did. But maybe what Sheridan did is what causes what happens to
causes it.
Centuri
Yeah.
anyhow. So we'll have to see. But yeah, a very interesting scene. Lots of seeds being planted, and we'll have to look forward to see what the future episodes hold for these story threads.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of implications in this episode as to what's going to happen in the future because we did see that future thing. We see that now, thank you, the Keeper come into play, which was in that future. I don't know whether it's fate or whether it can be changed, like Lou said. So we see the Keeper on his shoulder, which now has come into play, and it could theoretically be on Londo. We also see where Londo and Jakar kill each other, and that makes sense with their conversation in this episode. I do like that Londo says in the future thing that they've been through a lot. So it implies that there's other stuff coming between the two of them. And also that Jakar still has his eye patch on in the future. And he had a conversation with Franklin about getting a replacement. So what's going to happen there? I thought that was a great scene too, where Jakar is like a little kid. He's giddy. I could have an eye. That's great. And the fact that he doesn't know what phantom pain is also, because they just soldier through any injuries they have. And for him to be irritated by that, it shows how he's been softened a little bit, not in a bad way, but it shows that he's got a vulnerability now to pain. So a lot of stuff that was implied that we can infer from it. And I think a lot of stuff that makes us question whether that future is going to happen or not.
So Lou, I don't know if we discussed you gave your thoughts on the Lita and Sheridan discussion. You did? Okay.
Did I? No, I didn't.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I didn't. I don't have anything really to add to that.
Okay.
No but for your point of Sheridan being shorter, sterner is interesting. What I didn't really catch that, to be honest, but when you said it, I thought, yeah, he was abrupt with her. So that's interesting. And he doesn't like to be out of the loop on anything, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think so. I think the only thing else, I don't know if we have anything else to cover. I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah, Zach and Lita.
Yeah, Zach and Lita. So I thought that was really well done. That the only time someone knocks through that door is when they need something. And Zach, hey, you're attractive. I can be a nice guy. I'll bring pizza. So I liked him taking his shot and doing that. And I love the idea that the pizza, let's not look at this if it's pepperoni too much. And I thought it was really nice right after Sheridan gave her a new one. Karen, you brought it up. Any thoughts? Are we shipping these two?
Sure. I think they're great. I know Lita can be polarizing because of stuff that happens, but I think her and Zach might be an interesting pair to look at. This was before Netflix and chill, but I think that's the deal. You bring a pizza over and maybe get a little on the side.
Yeah.
But I think Zach he's not one of those I'm going to use so many terms here. He's not one of those that hits it and quits it. Yeah. He is looking for a relationship. I love that he goes to see Lita and he's been around her quite a bit because of his connection to the War Council and how she fit in there. And he can say to himself, if she's lonely, maybe I'll step in and fill that void, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah, I was happy to see it. How about you, Lou?
I don't really care for either of these two characters that much. Okay. So they're like third tier. So if they want to do that storyline, fine, but just make it very much a tertiary thing. Don't make it a central focus of the episode. Other than that, yeah, I'm not a big fan of either character. They haven't shown me enough to make me interested in them, so I don't really have any investment
Okay.
in what's going on with them, to be honest.
All right. Very
I like
nice.
Zach. I know that Lita is irritating, and she's not one of my favorites as well, but I like Zach. And I think this was a very
Zach's, um,
empathetic thing.
I don't know. He just doesn't come across as a smart guy, and I wouldn't have him as the head of my security team. So that's my problem with him. He
That
seems
is,
he's too
yeah.
much of a country.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, I'm not stereotyping here, but he just seems
No.
like too much of a country boy. He just seems like he's out of his element. I guess is the best way to put it. So I just
That's
don't.
a Jeff Conaway hallmark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
but I
know,
thought
on
his character
Taxi,
on
he was
Taxi
that.
was a lot
Oh
smarter.
no, he was a dummy on Taxi. That
Uh,
was his deal, is that he
But
was a
maybe he just
stupid
talked
guy.
faster on Taxi. I don't know.
Yeah.
He just takes so long to get. I just got my word ahead of him all the time because, come on, dude, say your line. And then it's just like, yeah, he just doesn't do anything for me on the show, to be honest.
And
Okay.
And
while
neither
we're
does
talking
Lita.
about Zach, just real quick, there was when Bester comes aboard, he says, I think the word you're looking for is door. And I'm like, he said comes through the. Of course, the next word is door. You don't have to be a telepath to figure that out. Bester's just an asshole. So,
He is.
you
No,
know,
I love it. That was fun. I just thought that was a great scene where and I assume my cell is waiting for me. And I did love his arrogance of Captain. She's a P5. I
mhm.
could rip through that in a minute. I think that's another reason why, and I think she talked about that a little bit, where she did, I'm going to F him up just because
Mhm.
how dare him? I'm more powerful than he thinks. But yeah. All right. I think that's it. I
I
can't
also
think of any.
really enjoyed
Yes.
the conversation between Sheridan and Delenn, which we mentioned, but he says that she gets him, and I think that's cool that she mentions that if he was on the beach with a Mai Tai, and I'm paraphrasing here,
Yeah.
that his head would explode because he wouldn't have anything to do. And I think their relationship is really fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It was nice to see them continuing to go. They did have a nice that they were on the White Star together talking about getting through this. Yeah. And so I think we're setting up that what is phase two is sooner or later they're going to have to go deal with the Earth problem. And I think they're telegraphing that. And I think that will be an interesting discussion.
Lots of setup in this episode.
Yep.
Lots.
Yep.
And I think they did it well.
Yeah, I think so too. Good. All right. Let's final thoughts and do ratings. Karen, any other thoughts? And if not, go ahead and give us your
Yeah,
rating.
no, I think we discussed more than should have been probably,
Yes.
but I liked it. I think I'm going to give it an 8 memory cubes that Zach was looking for to take over from Garibaldi, whatever that was.
Yeah,
Emergency
the
codes.
shutdown keys or whatever. Lockdown codes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Putting a lantern on that, probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm curious about these keepers. Are they the end controller, or are they acting on behalf of somebody else? Maybe this race of aliens that left Doom. I don't know. But I'm intrigued by them because they're the puppet masters, I guess you could say, literal puppet masters. So I'm really curious about their morphology and purpose in the story. So it's going to be interesting, and I want to see. I'm interested to see how Londo is going to end up with one of these things too. I'd like to know how these things get on people, and yeah, so I'm really curious about that. As to the rating for the episode, I think I'll go 8 coded messages. I think he likes coded messages.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. So I'm going to do 8 out of 10 might be pepperoni pizzas. Yeah. By the way, as we are doing this season, Lurker's Guide to Babylon 5, the P5 rating is an 8.43. So they liked it a little bit more than us,
Just
but
a
by
little.
notch, yeah, if you round down, it would be an 8. Yep, we only got one email this time. So do you want to read that for us, Karen?
Sure. It's from Texas on the Shock. So, hi, Texas. And he says, and so the heroes defeated the ancient threats and brought peace to the galaxy, and they all lived happily ever after. The end, period. Is how most shows would have done it. JMS, however, has always been interested in what comes after happily ever after. As we see, there's still a totalitarian government out there that is now left to its own devices. They are now preparing to take out B5 before Sheridan can get enough forces to go after President Clark. Fortunately, Bester still holds to his agreement and gives them a tip about one of Clark's schemes, but this isn't to say they trust each other. And Sheridan gives what I think is possibly the best death threat in the entire show when he threatened to arrest Lita. Quote, you could do that, and I could nail your head to the table, set fire to it, and feed your charred remains to the Pakmara, unquote. Yeah, there's the quote. That's funny. While he does give them what they need, he leverages this into the expedition to Zahadum to look for something that can help his lover. The plan to thwart Clark's ambush, which incidentally shows that Clark and Bester are cut from the same cloth, sending their people on a mission and then arranging their destruction behind their backs, goes successfully. The expedition, however, is less so, and it seems Lita is the reason. I personally think it was when Bester tried to coerce her back into the Corps that she decided to do whatever it was she did. It also shows that Lita is a bit of a loose cannon now that she doesn't really have anyone directing her efforts. There has been considerable debate on Sheridan's rebuke, whether it was justified or even whether he had any place to do it at all. I think that yes, he did. She lives on the station and so does fall under his authority, same as anyone else who lives in a place that has a governing individual or body. Threatening to turn her over to Psi Corps was a bit over the line, but I guess that depends on how serious you think he was about it. It did get me wondering what his response would have been had Talia been in this position. He had been actively building a cordial relationship with her to the point that he and Garibaldi were even considering bringing her into their circle. Lita, on the other hand, is an interloper. She barged in, bringing a whole bunch of trouble with her, which led directly to them losing Talia. And aside from working with the Vorlon, he never seems to go out of his way to get to know her. I have to wonder if he would have been quite as harsh with Talia. I guess we'll never know. In any case, what will be Clark's next move? I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Next time we learn about B5's open airlock policy. This is the Texas on the Shock signing off. Okay, that sounds interesting.
Indeed. And Lou, did we get any feedback on the yay?
Into the Fire, and pretty good considering that just went up yesterday. So apologies for the late release on that. But Texas was also on the channel, and they said that I agree with Karen. Londo's motivation has always been his people. It was the main distinction between him and Lord Rifa, who Rifa was out for his own interests while Londo was trying to do what he thought best for Centauri. And then CPF M2112. I don't know if that's a Rush reference. You should let me know, CPMF, if it is or not. I understand your point about Garibaldi, but if you look back after the end of the season, I think the screen time will balance out. That's good to hear. Thanks for that heads up. Nathan talks a lot about why Londo is leaving Centauri Prime and the circumstances under which the Emperor was killed feeds a lot of that. And then he talks a bit about Lorien saying that he didn't have any particular power, and basically he's like a Gandalf character. He's got to let the players decide their own fate, and he can't interfere. So I appreciate that. And then Nathan goes further, and he really gets into saying that just because it's a game, the ending doesn't really matter. And he's talking about Mass Effect and Mass Effect 3, which really PO'd a lot of people, if you know that storyline at all. And then he makes the point that other games have come out, God of War, Baldur's Gate 3, both had regard endings that didn't come out of nowhere, were not abrupt, that didn't feel cheap and unearned, with shocking deaths in the end, just because. And then he goes on to mention a whole bunch of other games, which he's really putting his geek cred out here, because I've heard of most of these and I've actually played some of them. Neverwinter Nights, Planescape Torment, which is a fantastic game. If anybody's looking for a really good RPG, that's a fantastic game. But you start out dead, and that's the start of
Oh,
the
okay.
story. It's fantastic. Might and Magics, Fallouts, etc. So great points. And then Iffy, setting the table for the rest of the series, says now you have to deal with the consequences of war, and Earth still has to be liberated. So thanks, guys. That's pretty good feedback for and a quick turnaround for such a short time between the release of that and then our recording of this one. So
Yeah, we had
appreciate
not
it.
even,
Thank you.
yeah, we had done it so quickly. I had not even had a chance to send it on iTunes yet, the audio version
Ooh.
on the podcast players. Yeah,
Can I just mention when
please.
he says he disagrees with, quote, it's a game, unquote. And I want to say I was being a little specific about that. I also disagree with the statement, it's a game. World of Warcraft has a deep lore behind it, which I think is polarizing, but I love that they go into that sort of thing. Baldur's Gate has a new expansion that came out that a lot of people are happy with how it continues the story. I agree that there are a lot of games that their story is part of what makes them great, where Mass Effect is that it's a game thing. Although
Mhm.
we had that conversation. And there's me bringing my geek card into it. I played
Karen is
Baldur's
a huge
Gate.
game player.
Yeah, I played Baldur's Gate. I played Neverwinter Nights. One of the Fallout, which he mentions as well. And of course, World of Warcraft. What else did I play? Oh, Diablo. Hello, Diablo. If we're talking about story, there's a
Nice.
big one. So, yeah.
Yep.
Good. All right. Thank you so much for the feedback. You can send us an email at jklb5podcast@gmail.com, and we will read your feedback. Lou, if someone wants to reach you, and where can they find you?
You can find us on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, where this show is presented for your enjoyment. As well, there are our JKL Media podcasts where we do reviews of one-off series or books or movies or music, whatever catches our fancy at a particular time. I also have interviews with writers up there and the Stephen King podcast. And on Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma.
All right. And Karen?
I'm at Eleveria, Aleveria, on the various social medias. And there's a Linktree link in my bio on Twitter. And you can follow it to get other links, including Lou's Reviews.
Very nice. And
Cool.
I am at Jesse Jackson, DFW, on Twitter, aka X. I saw someone talking about it that no one else calls it X except except this guy, Musk.
Always Twitter.
Yeah, always will be Twitter. And we just want to take a moment, as we said, we're recording this on New Year's Eve. Thank you for being on this journey with us for this past year. Not only the Babylon 5, but when we go on our tangents, we're going to start those up soon. So I think we're still debating, but I think we're going to do HBO's Watchmen.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to rewatching that and having Lou and Karen join me.
So today is 123
Ah, very nice.
12/31/23 123
Okay.
Very cool. I did not know that, and now then that's very slick. So I hope 2024 is a year of much joy, happiness, success, and love for each of you and for everyone you care about. Karen, Lou, I cannot think of a better way to spend New Year's Eve than talking fun stuff with you two.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited what 2024 is going to bring us.
Hear, hear.
And hopeful.
Yes. All right, everyone, be kind, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.